Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Megan Beardmore with Spectrum Psych Los Angeles. Recently, we held a regulation support group in response to the wildfires that took place in Los Angeles the week of January 6th, 2025. I'm doing a special recording today to go through the exercises we did together in that session for folks to use in their personal time. So the purpose of this session is to get grounded in our bodies and help with self-soothing and establish a sense of safety in our bodies. The goal of this session is not necessarily to feel amazing or incredible or awesome afterward. Hopefully, we can just take some of the edge off on the intensity of our emotional experiences. Ultimately, of course, we really just want to be here in our physical bodies for whatever does come up. There will be no verbal processing. This is all body-based regulation practices. So to give folks an outline of what we're going to get into today, we are going to first start with a little bit of breath work, move into some containment exercises, which I'll go over what I mean by containment here in a bit, and then do a few other body-based regulation practices to help boost our rest digest branch of the nervous system. We'll be together for about 25-ish minutes or so, just to give you a sense of how long this will be. All right, so getting started, I would like you to position your screen so that you can see me. But if not, if it's more comfortable for you to be in a position where you cannot see my body, feel free to just follow along as I will be guiding you through all of this verbally as well. And if you get distracted by anything, either internally or external, go ahead and just bring yourself back to the sound of my voice. So first, I want everybody to get in a really comfortable position on that note. I happen to be seated for these exercises. You don't have to be. You could be lying down on a comfortable surface or elsewhere. The only thing I would not recommend is doing all of this in a standing position, at least not for the whole period. Okay. So let's get started with a little bit of breath work here. I want to make sure that all of us are recruiting our diaphragm as we're breathing today. So just kind of repositioning my screen here. What I'm doing to find my diaphragm is taking my hand and placing it right smack dab on my belly button. So this is the lower part of my abdomen, if you cannot see me. And I want to just make sure that as I inhale, I'm inflating the lower part of my abdomen. It's known as the diaphragm. And when I exhale, that part of my belly is deflating. So we can kind of picture this like a balloon. We inhale, we expand the belly. And as we exhale, the belly contracts. Sometimes I place my other hand on my chest to just see which of my two hands is doing the heavy lifting. Ideally, again, we want the hand that's resting on the abdomen to be doing more of the work here, but this does take a couple of minutes for us to try to get activated, to try to get the diaphragm activated, that is. So if you get frustrated, just give yourself some time. There is also not a world in which the hand that's on my chest or this part of my lungs is not moving. Of course, that part will be moving as well. I just want to emphasize the belly. And if it feels right to you, you can also try inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. But this is less important than just, again, making sure that the belly and the diaphragm is activated. So we'll have more success with the rest of what we'll be doing today when we are breathing with the diaphragm. It also reduces heart rate and blood pressure, which is a lovely added bonus, I think. To give you a sense of how long we'll be here, we'll give this another 10-15 seconds. I also invite you to lay down, as it can be a little bit more helpful to recruit the diaphragm from that position. Okay. So if you'd like to move on, we are going to now shift into doing some containment exercises. But if you'd like to just hang out, getting a hang of that belly breathing, that's perfectly fine too. So a little bit on what I mean with when I say the word containment. So often in response to big stressors or repeated stressors, we can feel almost out of control in our minds, and our thoughts can feel sort of scattered and all over the place. Our sensations and thoughts and emotions can feel so big that it's as if they're spilling outside of ourselves. So containment is really self-holding techniques that help remind ourselves that our body does have edges, that all of these sensations, thoughts, and the like are held within the walls of our physical boundaries. I often imagine it like I am putting a lid on top of a jar. Okay, so we'll move through these here. The first position I will have us do, if it's accessible to you, is taking the palms of your hands and placing them on the sides of your head. And I'm not pressing or doing anything too crazy in this position. I am simply becoming aware of my hands on the sides of my head and these sensations. We'll be moving through 5 or 6 of these containment poses. So to give you a sense of how long we'll be doing each of these, I'll say about 30 seconds or so. What I'm trying to do at the same time is making sure my shoulders don't creep up. I want to keep them long, down my back. And of course, I'm coming back to my belly breathing. Just being curious with the sensations that you find in this position. The next pose here, I'll have you all place one hand on your forehead, the other on the back of your head or the base of your skull. I'll try to give you a little side angle here. One of my hands is placed on my forehead. The other is positioned on the base of my skull, like so. We won't be in these positions for too long. I know our arms can get a little tired. And if you need to take a break as we go through these, please do so. The whole point of this is to be listening to our bodies and to what they might need. A few more seconds here. You can switch hands if that feels appropriate. Excellent. So we'll let the arms kind of take a break here. Come back to the belly breathing for a moment. And we'll shift into position number 3. We'll place one hand across the forehead, another on our heart, if that feels accessible. Another visual that comes up for me as I do these is sort of like when somebody puts a blanket on top of you. Just that feeling of being held and supported, this time by ourselves. I also want to mention that if at any point you get dizzy or lightheaded, is a perfectly normal response to these exercises, especially as we do some of the breath work later. It's a sign that our nervous system is resetting, but if it feels unsettling at any point, you can pause what we're doing and return when you're ready. Next, what I'll do is shift one of my hands to my belly again. So I now have one palm on the center of my chest and one palm on my lower abdomen. This would be a lovely time to check in with that belly breath. We really want more of that expansion on the inhale, and that hand that is on our lower abdomen. And if it's still more in the chest, that's okay too. We can just be a witness to that. Showing up for what's here. Out here for another 15-20 seconds. And if you get distracted, just making note of what comes up, be it thoughts, sensations, emotions, and then gently guiding yourself back to the present moment, to the sound of my voice, or your body and your physical space are all lovely anchors. The next one that we'll be doing is taking one hand and placing it right smack dab in the center of our chest. So this time, instead of having it in my upper portion of my chest, I am shifting it to more where my sternum is, right in the middle of my torso. And then the other hand is going back to the base of the skull. I like this position because I get both of the sensations from the front of my body and the back side of my body. So it's almost like I'm being sandwiched in the middle of my hands. And I'm not pushing in any way, but I almost get the sensation that sort of like a little mini squeeze machine. I'm safe and secure in between my hands, the physical boundaries of my body. Be here for another 5 or 10 seconds. Letting your hands, your arms dangle by your sides, perhaps giving them a little wiggle like I just did. Again, we want to get this tension that's out of our shoulders and out of our necks, if at all possible. Next exercise is one of my favorites. We're going to take our right hand and place it under our left armpit. I almost think of this like I am picking up or cupping my heart on one side of my body, and then my left hand is over my right bicep. Now, and if you're like, hey, what left, right, what's going on? It is not that important. But again, just for repetition purposes, it is my right hand under my left armpit, my left hand over my right bicep. So this should feel like a lovely little hug for yourself. So if you see me kind of squeeze my sides, that's what I'm doing here. Giving myself a little hug. The position that we were just doing before this was helpful to get that hug in between the front and back sides of our body. Now we get this lovely input from the sides of our body. So just hanging out here for another 30 seconds. What I would like you to do if you're in this position with me is to check in again with your shoulders. It's really easy, and I'm noticing myself do this. I'm kind of starting to hunch over. We really want the shoulders back, up, and down. Some would say the collarbone is smiling or the collarbone is wide and open. And this is just to help support that diaphragm and the belly breathing. That is our main anchor. I'm also feeling the rise and fall of my arms since they're resting on my belly. Okay. So we will be moving on to doing some rhythmic movement next. And if you're not ready to move on, that is okay. Feel free to stay in any of the containment poses that we just did. If any of those felt particularly nice, that is where I want you to be. And of course, for simplicity's sake, you can always come back to just that belly breathing as well. Okay, so for those of you who are seated, this is a perfectly fine position to be in. For those of you who are laying down, I am going to quickly lay down here on the couch to give you a sense of what I'd like you to do with your feet. And we'll see if the microphone can catch this here. I'd like you seated, or excuse me, laying down in such a way that your feet are brought up and are held and supported by the surface beneath you. Instead of legs being completely extended, I want them in this position. So we can rock the legs from side to side. Just in case the microphone did not pick that up, I'll repeat myself here. So for those of you who are laying down, go ahead and position your legs so that your feet are placed on the surface and your legs are at a 90-degree angle. Gently rocking the legs from one side to the other. For those of you who are seated, we're going to just gently rock from one side to the other. Now, there's nothing super fancy about this. We're going to keep it very simple today. The only thing I want you to really keep in mind as we are swaying or rocking is that I want enough sensation, or I want enough of a rocking movement so that I feel one of my hips comes up while most of my weight is shifted to the other side. Of course, I don't want to rock too much or too intensely because I might fall over. Although that might bring some laughs if I were to do that. You can also play around with the speed in addition to the depth of the rocking movement. I'm doing this really nice and slow. You can go at whatever pace feels right. So as we do this, I'm going to give you just a little bit of the science or the why rhythmic movement or rocking can be so helpful. So what we are doing is effectively kickstarting the rest digest branch of the nervous system anytime that we are in this kind of rocking or rhythmical movement. So we can think of, why we find rocking chairs so soothing, or that our instinct, if we were to pick up a crying baby, would be to rock the baby, right? Rocking is something that our bodies intuitively know to do in order to self-soothe, which is one of the reasons why I find this movement so awesome. It is simple, it is intuitive, and it is quite effective. But you also might be thinking, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't feel anything. That's okay. This isn't something that is really complex. You may notice a shift when we pause the movement, which we will do here in another minute or so. But for now, go ahead and just keep up with this rocking sensation. You can also do it front to back, leaning forward. If you're in a swivel chair, I just think for me personally, what's more effective is the side to side motion. And again, I'm going to bring my feet up for folks who might be laying down or just swaying the knees. One position to the other, from one side to the other, like windshield wipers. If at any point you get dizzy, lightheaded, again, you can pause if you'd like. Otherwise, feel free to just gently continue and just be aware of that. For now, we'll pause. Allow the body to integrate what we just did together. So for me, I feel this sort of settling, almost as if we were to shake up a snow globe and to allow all of that sediment to settle at the bottom. Also, if you yawn at any point, that can also be a sign that we are kickstarting the rest digest branch of the nervous system. So that would be an awesome side effect. Okay. What we're going to do next is bee breathing, and that is pretty intuitive. I'm going to get myself a little bit closer here. But it's just like it sounds. We're going to be making the sound of a buzzing bee when we exhale. So there's an extra added element to this, if you would like to, go ahead and place your index finger on the tragus, which is the cartilage that is between the cheek and the ear itself. I'll go ahead and give you a side image of my ear. So I am placing the index finger right on the tragus. It would be our instinct if something was really loud to plug our ears, but for the purposes of this is just going to be light compression. So we're going to inhale as we would with our belly breathing into the belly. And then we exhale, we're going to make a sound like a B. And as you make that sound, you're going to press that cartilage. Bzzz. When you finish your exhale, decompress or let go of that cartilage. Pause before you inhale again. And exhale and buzz. Bzzz. We'll do a few more of these. I'm going to stop pressing on this part of my ear just to show you. Can be just as effective without that additional component. For the next couple of breaths, what I will have us do is just make any sound. I'm going to use voo when I exhale. So VOO almost, if this was spelled out, making a loud enough sound that I can feel the vibration in my mouth, my throat, my chest. If you'd also like to keep the mouth closed and just make a humming sound on the exhale, that works too. So we'll do this together, inhaling. Continue at your own pace. I'll do this once more with a hum this time, inhaling. We can pause the sound with the exhale for this next couple of moments here. Again, allowing what we've just done to integrate into our bodies. None of what we're doing is overly complex, but if we are in that fight or flight kind of overstimulated, stressed out mode, we will feel the effects of this. We just want to be gentle as we move forward. Take things very, very slow. And again, just being aware of any sensations that come up. If you want to make a sound, if you want to cry, any of those things would be lovely outlets. And if not, that's okay too. We're just here for what is. All right, we're almost finished here. Do one or two more things. If it is accessible to you, I would like you to place your hands crisscross over your chest, one hand on each shoulder. As you can see here, my hands are in this butterfly position. So I'm making like little wings with my arms. You can also place both of your hands on either side of your legs, crisscrossing over your lap. And what we're going to start doing is just tapping from one side to the other. This is also rhythmic movement. Continue to tap on your own. And while we're here for the next minute, I'll give you some of the science behind tapping, bilateral tapping, as it's sometimes called. So by recruiting both hemispheres of the brain, when we cross the midline of the body and we're using both sides of the body, we are effectively communicating to the limbic system, which is the part of our brain that controls our fight or flight response. And we're telling it, it's okay. We're here. You're safe. So instead of saying that to our bodies, which we absolutely could at this moment, it wouldn't be a terrible idea. We are communicating that message directly through this bilateral movement. So we'll continue this for the next maybe 20 seconds or so. Nothing else, nothing more fancy. No need to concern yourself with if you're doing it right. Because remember, the whole point of today is to just be here with our physical bodies, showing up for whatever comes up. I also want to mention that I'm not really slapping. I'm not trying to create a really intense sensation. This is really gentle. But you can play around with the speed or pressure if you like. Okay. Now, to wrap up, to seal all this goodness up, I do want to make sure that we are once again feeling the containment of our physical bodies. Again, feeling the edges of our physical bodies. So what I'm going to do is place both of my hands on either side of my arm, just as we were with tapping, and giving myself a gentle squeeze all the way down to my wrists. I'll show you this again. I'm squeezing from the tops of my shoulders, little baby hugs all the way down my arms to my wrists. And I'm going to continue doing this all over my body as much as I can. So I have one hand on the back of my head now and the other on my chest. But since I can't, my arms are not long enough to do all the way down my back, I am just going to gently touch all the way down my abdomen. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this on each of my legs. So giving my legs little gentle squeezes, little baby hugs, all the way down to my ankles. And I apologize, you can't see all the way down. And I'm making my way back up. But there is no order that matters for this exercise. Just try to make sure that you've squeezed most of your body. And that's what I have for you today. So at any point, if you'd like to do these exercises again, give them a try, whatever felt right to you, or any of that sort of thing. You can also try doing these exercises before bed. It is a lovely way to help calm the body, help prepare for rest at any point. And I just want to thank you all for being here with me, showing up for yourself, allowing yourself to disconnect for a little bit with everything that's going on externally and giving yourself that tender, loving time with your own physical body. All right. Goodbye for now.